Are you sure you can't stay the night? It's pouring out there and the flood warning. I don't feel good about this. Your mom said concerningly as she looked between you and Jungkook. And she was right, the rain was relentless, tapping against the windows, and you and Jungkook were preparing to leave. He shot a glance at Jungkook, who was standing near the door while his arms crossed and face as cold as ever. He already told you that he can't stay because there's a very important meeting tomorrow. We have to go, Mom. Jungkook has work in the morning. You explained, giving her a reassuring smile, even though a part of you was just as uneasy about the weather. The rain had been picking up speed, and the drive home didn't look promising. Both of your parents exchanged glances at each other. They both were worried, but they know they can't do anything except praying for your safety. Your father looked at you. Be careful, alright? Call me when you get there. We will. You nodded, hugging them both quickly before turning towards the door. Jungkook had already opened it, stepping outside into the rain without a word. Typical. With a final wave to your parents, you rushed to the car, feeling the cold rain soak through your clothes almost instantly. Jungkook was already sitting in the driver's seat, waiting as you quickly buckled in. Without saying a word, he started the engine. You looked at him and sometimes wonder why he's so emotionless. Does he not care, or is just he doesn't want to show? The ride was quiet except for the loud rain hitting the roof and the distant rumble of thunder. Jungkook wasn't one to talk much, especially not with you. Ever since your arranged marriage, he had kept his distance. You never really understood why he acted so cold, especially since neither of you had chosen this marriage. You tried to make the best of it, but Jungkook always seemed to push you away. Even now, with the storm raging and flood warnings playing on the radio, he barely said a word. Do you think we'll make it back home? You asked, finally breaking the heavy silence. He didn't answer right away. His eyes were fixed on the road ahead, but then, after a few seconds, he replied softly, "We'll be fine." You sighed softly and turned to look out the window. The rain was coming down harder, making it almost impossible to see the road ahead. The windshield wipers struggled to keep up. There's barely any car passing by. The situation is not as simple to ignore. You complained under your breath while looking outside the window, but he heard that. There was heavy silence after that, but not until the car suddenly stopped. You looked at him confused and a little afraid. What happened? Why did you stop the car? He looked This is all we have got, the man said apologetically before leaving. The moment the door closed, you hugged yourself, teeth chattering from the cold. Jungkook walked over to the fireplace, kneeling down to light it. You watched him in silence, unsure of what to say. His face was expressionless, as always, but there was something different in the way he moved, like he was holding back more than just his usual coldness. After a few minutes, the fire roared to life, casting a warm glow around the room. Jungkook stood up and glanced at you. His eyes scanned your trembling form. Without a word, he grabbed the single blanket from the bed and gave it to you. Wrap yourself in this. You took the blanket, but it was thin and not nearly enough to chase away the chill in your bones. What about you? You asked, glancing at his equally soaked clothes. I'm fine, he said, turning back towards the fire and knelt down again, this time with his back to you, as if the conversation was already over. You wrapped the blanket around yourself, sitting as close to the fire as possible, but it wasn't enough. The cold had already sunk deep into your skin, and despite the heat of the flames, your body wouldn't stop shivering. You tried to hide it, not wanting to show weakness in front of Jungkook, but it was no use. He could hear your teeth chattering from where he was sitting. His heart clenched because he's the one to put you in this situation. I told you this was a bad idea. Now we're stuck here in the middle of nowhere. Jungkook didn't respond right away, his back still turned to you as he added another log to the fire. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. You finally said it, feeling the frustration you had been holding in finally bubbling to the surface. You always choose work. You always think you're right and do what you think is right according to you, because for you, others' opinion doesn't matter. His hand stopped in the middle, but he didn't look back at you. I'm sorry you have to face this situation because of me. You just looked away annoyed. Sometimes it really hurts you to see how cold and distant he is, but you don't say anything. You just don't feel like there's any use of it. There was silence for a long time. None of you said anything. Jungkook got up and walked to the bed before sitting on the edge. From there, he watched you shivering beneath the thin blanket. He clenched his fist and his jaws tensed. The fire wasn't doing much to chase away the cold, and the sight of you trembling made something inside him twist painfully. He had told himself over and over again that keeping his distance was the right thing to do. He had thought he would doing you a favor by not getting too close. The marriage wasn't something either of you had asked for. It was arranged, a deal made by your families. He convinced himself that if he stayed cold and detached, maybe you wouldn't feel the burden of it as much. But now, sitting here and seeing you so vulnerable, he couldn't deny the truth anymore. From the beginning, Jungkook had fought against his feelings for you. He had tried to tell himself that this marriage was nothing but a formality, something he needed to get through to fulfill his family's expectations. But every time he saw you, every time you looked at him with those eyes that showed hurt instead of the indifference he expected, his guard cracked a little more. He had been so focused on his own fears that he hadn't realized how much he was hurting you in the process. You deserve better than this, he thought bitterly, running a hand through his hair. He kept telling himself that he didn't want this marriage any more than he did, that you'd be better off if he kept things strictly business, but watching you suffer now because of his stubbornness filled him with regret. You were sitting near the fire, your knees pulled up to your chest as you wrapped the blanket tight around yourself. Despite the warmth of the flames, you were still shaking, your skin pale from the cold. Jungkook's heart ached and he felt the pull to move closer to you. He had been keeping his distance, sitting on the bed while you sat near the fire, but his body refused to listen to the walls he had built in his mind. The sight of you in this state was too much for him. Jungkook swallowed hard as his thoughts swirled with guilt and a deep nagging frustration with himself. He had spent so long avoiding intimacy with you, thinking that staying cold would protect him from feeling he wasn't ready to deal with. He thought you would be grateful for the distance, that it would give you space to live your life without feeling tied down to someone you barely knew. But he had miscalculated. He didn't just care about you, he loved you, and the more he tried to fight it, the more it hurt both of you. Jungkook wasn't used to feeling vulnerable. He had always been confident, self-assured and in control. But when it came to you, everything was different. Loving you scared him. The idea that you could reject him, or worse, be indifferent to his feelings, terrified him more than he was willing to admit. His gaze softened as he watched you tremble, and in that moment he made a decision. He couldn't stand to see you suffer any longer, not because of his own stubbornness. You deserve to be cared for, to be warm, to feel safe, and more than that, you deserve the truth. Without a word, he stood up and crossed the room towards you. His footsteps sound soft on the wooden floor. You didn't notice him at first, too focused on keeping the blanket wrapped tightly around yourself, but when he crouched down beside you, you looked up in surprise. Jungkook, you were confused as to what was going on in his mind. He didn't answer immediately, but then his hands reached out to pull the blanket more snugly around you before settling beside you. The firelight danced across his face, and for the first time his expression wasn't distance or cold, it was filled with concern. "You're freezing," he said quietly while his voice was softer than you had heard in a long time. "I'm fine," you lied, but your teeth were chattering slightly. You were just too amused by the softness in his voice. It's not like he didn't talk to you nicely, it's just something was different this time. But he frowned, and his brows furrowed in frustration with himself. He knew you weren't fine, and it was his fault. You were sitting here in the cold, drenched and shivering. He shouldn't have let it get this far. "Come here," he said gently, surprising you with the sudden softness in his tone. You blinked, unsure of what he meant. "What?" "You're cold," he repeated, moving closer and pulling you gently into his arms. "I'm not going to let you freeze just because I have been too stubborn to admit that I care." The warmth of his body surrounded you as he held you close, his arms wrapping around you in a protective embrace. At first, you were too stunned to respond, but as the warmth of his skin seeped into yours, you relaxed against him, feeling the tension leave your body. "Jungkook, are you okay?" You were just too shocked to see this side of him. He rested his chin on top of your head, while his fingers gently brushing against your back. "I'm sorry, Ryan. I've been distant because I didn't want to hurt you, but I was wrong." You looked up at him while your heart was pounding at the sincerity in his tone. "You have been hurting me more by pushing me away." Jungkook's expression tightened as guilt flashed in his eyes. "I know, I thought it was the only way to protect us, to protect myself, but it's not fair to you." You searched his face, seeing the vulnerability there for the first time. "Why would you need to protect yourself from me?" "Because I love you, and I've been scared to admit it. Scared that I'd mess this up, scared that you wouldn't feel the same way." You stared at him in shock, processing the big confession he made. The cold that had wrapped around your heart for so long began to melt as his words filled the empty spaces inside you. I never wanted this marriage to be just a contract. I wanted it to mean something, but I was too afraid to say it. Tears pricked at your eyes as you listened to him, your heart aching at how much he had been holding back. You had always known there was more to his distance, but hearing it now, hearing how deeply he cared, changed everything. I've always wanted to be close to you. I just didn't know if you feel the same. Jungkook's arms tightened around you, his lips brushing against your forehead. I do, I've always felt the same. The weight of Jungkook's confession made the cold that had been around your heart start to fade away. As his words filled you with warmth, you felt his body heat becoming even more comforting. In the quiet room with the fire crackling softly nearby, you both slowly moved closer. The heat from the fireplace and Jungkook's body created a cozy warmth around you. Without realizing it, you were almost touching. Jungkook's face was close to yours, and his warm breath tickled your skin. The connection between you was strong, and before you knew it, your lips met in a gentle, unexpected kiss. It started soft and slow, but soon became a passionate kiss that showed all the feelings you had both kept inside. When you pulled away, breathless and smiling, Jungkook looked at you with relief and happiness. I've always wanted to be close to you like this, he said softly. You leaned into him, enjoying the warmth of his body and the love that now surrounded you. I've been waiting for this, you whispered, feeling the same affection. The two of you sat there in silence, the warmth of the fire and his embrace finally chasing away the cold. For the first time since your marriage, you felt truly connected to him, not just as a partner in an arrangement, but as the man who had been silently guarding his heart for fear of losing you. This is the best night of my life because I finally stopped pretending, he whispered into your hair, holding you tightly. You smiled softly, leaning into his warmth as the rain continued to pour outside. You knew that after tonight everything between you and Jungkook would change, and for the first time you were ready for it.